All right. I know Halloween has passed, but I think this is a great time to be able to go into another form of voice acting. And it's kind of nice to be able to kind of keep with some of the spooky genre, at least for this, because uh, the I want to say the most difficult part of voice acting, if you're trying to do anything like character voices, that's one thing. If you're trying to do audiobooks, that's another. But I think the most difficult one, at least for me, is dramatic readings. And oh my goodness, if you can get dramatic readings under your belt, you're going to be doing so good as far as being able to act and being able to deliver very atmosphere heavy scenes and dialogue. And if you can master this, holy cow, I think you could pretty much master anything if you're able to do this. It's difficult because you're trying to be as realistic as you can, well, at least as far as the emotion and the scene and everything that's going on, but you're trying to convey it in such a way that it's dramatic enough where it can linger with the person. And depending on the way that you inflect your tone and the way that you say a word can change how it's received. For instance, I'll post some clips and some videos or some links to some stuff that you can check out of people that are doing some great dramatic reads on YouTube, and you can check some of them out because they are fantastic. And some of them are just song lyrics that are said in a different way, or maybe they're just regular phrases or things that other people have done in a different way. And when you first start getting into voice acting, that's one of the key exercises that you are trained on how to do, is how to be able to take one phrase or one sentence and change it into something different. And by doing that, you're also trying to do it in a variety of different ways. You don't want to just stick to one. So let me give you an example. Let's go with the phrase, or the sentence, I guess. Question. We'll go with that. We'll go with the question of, are you coming over here? Okay. How many different ways can you perform this to change its meaning? So you could just say, are you coming over here? If you say it in that way, then it's just normal. You can also preface this with, hey, are you coming over here? The hey puts you into the mood, but sometimes they don't want the hey in the script. So you'll just say, are you coming over here? Or you'll say, hey, are you coming over here? And you'll remove the hey from the beginning in the editing when you do that. That way you just get the, are you coming over here? Portion of it. Let's try another variation. Are you coming over here? That gives it a bit of a different tone. Maybe the person isn't prepared or isn't ready. Are you coming over here? Maybe there's confusion, right? Or maybe they're panicked. Are you coming over here? Maybe they're a little frustrated or bored. Are you coming over here? Or maybe it's sarcastic. Are you coming over here? You know, how many different ways can you convey different emotions and say a different message to the audience? What is the character doing? You have to understand the context of what the conversation is doing and what's happening in the conversation to lead up to that point. Because one thing that many voice actors do when they're trying to interpret a script is they misinterpret what is going on. Even I'm guilty of that. So sometimes what I have to do when I just don't understand the context of what a script is saying, I have to ask the director or the scriptwriter, hey, what did you have in mind when this person was saying this? What was the context? And some people, when you communicate with them, sometimes they don't understand what you mean by that. Sometimes they're like, well, I just meant this, and you don't get as specific of an answer as you want. Sometimes it's vague. Well, they were just being their character, or they were just doing what they were supposed to. Like, well, okay, what does that mean in the terms of context? So sometimes you have to tell them, and this has worked for me a couple of times that I've done it. I've said to them, well, I feel like I'm kind of on the right track, but I feel like I'm just missing that little something. Can you give me the voice that you have, that you've imagined for this character? And if you could send a voice file, that'd be great. And usually they're okay with doing that, and they'll say, oh, well, the character that I had when they said, are you coming over here, I wanted them to go, are you coming over here? Then it's more, oh, well, I didn't know you wanted excited, I wouldn't tell them that, but I'm like, oh, okay, that makes more sense. That would be what I would tell them. Like, oh, now the context is making sense. Okay, do you want them excited for these, follow-up sentences, or do you want to build up to this? Sometimes you just have to infer that as a voice actor, not to bug the people as much. But if you're really confused and if you need clarification, you'll want to do that. So to kind of get into some of the dramatic readings and things like that, how you can be able to get better, reads out of it, you're going to want to listen to some dramatic readings and how people do it. One very key instance of this, I would say, if any of you people are BioShock fans, fans of the game BioShock, go through and listen to some of those recordings that the player has to pick up that build upon the story, because the dramatic readings from all of these voice actors and actresses that are doing this, you can tell it's a very different niche of voice acting. I took a class on it. It's called Live On-Air Interpretive Reading or Dramatic Reading. And this is something that's really interesting to take a class on, because when you first get into it, you're like, oh, well, I can do this. I have some background in voice acting. And then you learn as you're taking this class with other people that, holy cow, it is a completely different facet. And in order to be able to convey that emotion, it's very, very difficult. And it goes into more, I want to say, classical theater acting, at least from my perspective. It may be different for people who have actually been in it, but I look at it, I'm like, holy cow, you have to be able to convey an entire scene, an entire emotion, just using your voice and maybe some actions or facial expressions to be able to help get you into the character. So I want you to think about that anytime you're doing a dramatic read or you're trying to be dramatic with something. You have to go for a emotion and you're trying to set an atmosphere. And it's a lot harder to do than most people would think. And the way that you want to kind of do this to kind of, I want to say, compare to where your skill level is, there's a lot of people that say you shouldn't compare yourself to others. Well, that's true in facets of jealousy and envy and things like that. But when you're trying to put yourself into a position where you're building your skills and your skill sets, at some point you have to do that in a way that helps build you. You don't want to get to the point where you're thinking, well, I'm never going to be that good. I'm not that good. What you're wanting to do is you're comparing your performance to another person's and saying, how can I get there? Because if you have that mindset of, what is this person doing that I need to be doing differently? What can I pull from this that I can be able to incorporate into my stuff? Because you don't want to copy them completely outright, but you want to find your voice, right? You want to find things that work best for your voice that you can incorporate into your skills and your talents. And so in that way, you do have to compare yourself. I don't think that there's a facet in voice acting where you can't, because even in audio quality and things like that, voice actors all the time are trying to tweak their audio quality to try to get it as good as they can. Well, how else are you going to do that unless you compare yourself to your audio to other people's audio, or professional stuff to your stuff, right? Or even the stuff that you did in the past compared to where you are now. You're always comparing and contrasting and saying, okay, well, this didn't sound that great. How can I get to this point to make it sound better? So you're not trying to dig yourself into a hole and, wreck your wreck your confidence and your self-esteem going, oh, I'll never be as good as this person. No, you have to go into it with the mindset of, okay, how are they doing this and how can I get that, right? So go into it with that type of a mindset and think about all the ways that you can be able to pull something from the dramatic reads or from the performance that you're seeing that these voice actors or voiceover artists are doing. Okay, so I think I've talked enough about that. Let's go into some of the actual dramatic reads. I'm going to try doing some, and I'm going to do my best just to give you a raw audio sample. And what that means is it's not going to be edited or anything like that. It's not going to be chopped up, so that way you're not getting the full experience. I want you to be able to understand completely and fully what it is to be able to be a voice actor and to see me mess up. And that's why I do a lot of these without chopping up a whole lot of audio or anything like that. I want you to get the full authentic version of me and what I'm doing as a voice actor. A lot of people, they refine all their audio and their editing and things like that. I get that, but I think the thing that people miss out on most when they're first starting out is the human experience, what it's actually like. There's pitfalls, there's mistakes. I make mistakes all the time. I have to do retakes. And so I want you to be able to hear some of the mistakes and things that I make. I can always trim it up, and I always do, for a final product in editing and before it goes to the actual director or producer for the project. And you have to do that as a voice actor. But for me, I just want to be able to convey to you what the truth of the nature of voice acting is. So I'm going to see if I can find a dramatic read and see how well I can just kind of do it off of the cuff first for you without really necessarily going into a whole lot. I'll give you some details and we'll see where this goes. Let me see if I can find something. Okay, I'm going to try a portion of the lyrics from a song that I really like by Beast in Black called Blind and Frozen. And this is just going to be a little bit of a snippet just of me trying to do a dramatic read of that. And I only went over it once just so that I could get some of the lyrics down and remember some stuff. But this is going to be the raw version of it. I haven't practiced this really other than that, so this is what you're going to get. This is my best interpretation of it to begin with. All right, so I'm going to start off kind of at the beginning. I think it's like the third paragraph down where it says, how I long for the time. So if you haven't listened to the song, it's kind of a power metal song. Love it. Very energetic, but if you want to go and listen to that first before you do this, I'll give you that moment right now before I start so you can see the difference in how it works. Alrighty, here we go. How I long for the time when your lips would kiss mine and the promise was still unbroken. I will wait for tomorrow that may never come. I will wait in the name of love. So you can kind of see the difference in how I approach that versus the song. That's kind of a dramatic read. You want to be able to convey some sort of emotion. Hopefully I did it well. I don't know. I'm going to replay this to see how well I did it now. And then I'm going to try to do a better version here in the next portion that you hear. Okay, so there's definitely parts that I could definitely improve on. I'm going to practice it a few more times, and I'll give you the end result of the things that I practiced. How I long for the time when your lips would kiss mine and the promise was still unbroken. I will wait for tomorrow that may never come. I will wait in the name of love. So that was definitely a different rendition. I'm going to practice again and see if I can deliver a different one with kind of a different atmosphere, maybe something a little bit better. I'm going to try. It doesn't mean that I'm good at this. And like I said, it's the most difficult thing that I have been trying to learn how to do. But if you can master this, like I said, you're going to be doing great. How I long for the time when your lips would kiss mine, and the promise was still unbroken. I will wait for the day that may never come, and I will wait in the name of love. So I tried in that instance to have a more melancholy feel, and I was trying to envision somebody who I was talking to in that moment. I'm going to try it one more time, see if I can refine it just a little bit more in that type of a variation, and that'll be that, at least for this practice. So at least you can kind of see how it, I guess, evolves or progresses as you practice. How I long for the time when your lips would kiss mine, and the promise was still unbroken. I will wait for tomorrow that may never come. I will wait in the name of love. So, there's that one. I actually wanted to do one more because I was just looking at this. I'm like, holy cow. Well, this guy is also hoping as well. So maybe I can do it in a hopeful type of an atmosphere. Let's try it that way. Oh, how I long for the time when your lips will kiss mine, and when the promise was still unbroken. I will wait for tomorrow. It may never come. I will wait in the name of love. So that one I was kind of smiling out of the side of my face, and you can kind of feel some of that smile when you're doing the voice acting. Can you hear the difference when I'm talking and I got a smile on my face? That's going to come across in your audio as well. So all of your physical motions, I'm actually waving my arms and moving them around to explain. It's helping me be able to convey things when I do this. Also, your facial expressions help greatly, because if you're sad and you're trying to do a happy voice, it sounds a little weird, right? Because you're fighting against it. But if I try to do a sad tone with a sad face, it can actually sound pretty more believable, right? At least in that way. It sounds more sad, right? Maybe not as believable to you. I'm going to have to listen to it over to see if it even was. But I just want to help convey how important emotions and important facial expressions and actually doing the physical acting in the booth is when you're doing something like this. And when you're doing a dramatic read, it's kind of different, because a lot of these dramatic reads, you're acting as a narrator, right? However, you're trying to be dramatic and you're not trying to just sound like you're reading off of a piece of paper, right? You want to actually be dramatic about it and convey some sense of atmosphere. So this is kind of what you want to shoot for. I'm going to try one more and just to give you an example, but this time it's going to be from The Cremation of Sam McGee by Robert W. Service. And I'm going to go and just try a raw tone with that. There are strange things done in the midnight sun by the men who moil for gold. The Arctic trails have their secret tales that would make your blood run cold. The northern lights have seen queer sights, but the queerest they ever did see was that night on the marge of Lake LaBarge when I cremated Sam McGee. There you go. So you can kind of hear the more dramatic feel of it and how I was trying to make it more interesting for the audience to try to pause during certain times, change up the cadence, and give a certain atmosphere to how I was portraying and delivering the whole experience, because it's not just that you're out in the midnight sun, right? Or somebody going on an adventure. You're actually out there in the winter, you're in the cold on the Arctic trails. And he's saying that even though it's cold out there on those Arctic trails, there are secret tales, right, that will actually make your blood run cold. So he's saying that when you're in the Arctic, right, even though it's cold out there, you may still feel warm until you hear these secret tales that'll actually make your blood turn cold. So you're trying to convey something like that. And then in the old way that he was talking about seeing queer sights, it's strange sights, something odd, something weird, right? And that's how it is by definition in the old terms of queer, right? You got to take some of these pieces of poetry and pieces of art and how they were written in the context during their time, because nowadays queer is more like LGBTQ stuff, right? So back then it had a completely different meaning. So if we're going towards what it actually means in context of the script that he's writing, he's saying that there are some strange things that happen under the northern lights, right? But the weirdest and strangest that they ever did see, meaning in all of the time that the northern lights have been around, the strangest that it had ever happened was that time when I was sitting on the side of Lake LaBarge in the night and I was cremating Sam McGee. And that gives you a whole different form of imagery, right? You're going from a cold Arctic winter night, and then he slowly transitions over to what is strange and what is weird in the night. And then all of a sudden, it goes to a whole different type of imagery to kind of shock the viewer. It's like, or the listener in this case. Like, oh yeah, I cremated a person, and I knew his name. I knew him by person. I created somebody I knew. Yeah, it's like, oh, okay. So you want to try to get the immensity of that situation, or at least, have something building up to it. And if I were to work on it several more times rather than just do a raw first take like I did with you, I could probably build this into something a lot more interesting. So, and I kind of want to do that, because this is kind of an interesting poem, and it's a very, very old one. So I think I can be able to do this without having to worry about copyright strikes. I'll have to look into it. But if I can, then I'll do a whole performance of this, and I'll put it up on my Patreon. That way you guys can hear the whole thing, and you can see what a dramatic read is like from beginning all the way to the end. And I think that would be kind of fun for you to be able to see. So I'll see if I can do that and have that ready for you guys. Anyway, it sounds like food's ready, so I think I better call it for this one. But thank you so much for watching, and be sure to follow me for the next one. Take care, and stay safe out there. Thanks for watching. If you want to continue to join me on my voice acting journey, then don't forget to subscribe to me on YouTube or join my Patreon for more videos where you can hear practice reads, blooper reels, or even my experiences of getting into voice acting. Who knows, maybe you can even join this disabled guy on his journey. Thanks again, and as always, stay safe out there.